So today, I wanted to talk a little bit about forgiveness and judgment. And I did a program in the very beginning just on forgiveness, but I talked mostly about what is forgiveness, what does it look like when you don't forgive, and I really focused that more on where you might have a situation where you perhaps haven't forgiven something or someone or a situation that you felt like you needed to deal with. And we focused a lot on that. But I wanted to come back to that subject today, and I also wanted to add in it judgment, because a lot of issues around forgiveness also start with judgment. And then judgment leads to also lack of trust, because when we judge others, it might be because we're judging them because we don't know them or they're different than us. And that starts in our head, because you may think that, oh, I'm really good, I just really don't judge people, but your mind does all the time. And you judge in little situations that you don't even realize that you're judging, but the more you become aware of that judgment, the more you can eliminate those kinds of thoughts and begin to see the world in a different way. And when I talk about judgment, it could just be simple things of, you're just sitting in the parking lot and you see someone walking by and you go, wow, that person just walks strange. That's judging. That's actually judging someone. Your mind's just doing that. Or, you might be saying, why, well, I don't like, why would anybody buy a car that color? It's one thing to say, I don't like orange, but why would anyone buy a car that's orange? I mean, it could be as simple as that. Or, you could say something like, well, I think that, that young lady probably should have dressed differently. And maybe so, but the point is you're judging, and your mind is constantly judging. So the goal of today is to bring more awareness to each of us, because it's not going to go away overnight, but is to bring more awareness to the fact when we judge others, what it actually does to us. And it is an energy. So everything that we do is energy. Everything we think, every action we take, every situation that we put ourselves in is energy. And energy can be redirected, and it can be, some energy is good, we want that energy. Some energy is not so good, and we want that energy to go away. So let me just go back to a couple of facts about, we'll start with forgiveness, because the reason I'm bringing forgiveness back into this is that when we continuously judge others, we really have to look at maybe forgiving ourselves, because there's an energy that we're carrying that we're unwilling to just accept people sometimes for who they are. And then we start to carry that energy. But if we go back and look at, let's just talk about, come on in, have a seat. I think we have your seat's right here waiting for you. So I asked the question because I wanted to do some research on this. Where does forgiveness come from? I mean, who started it? Where did it really begin? And, there's a lot of cultures and a lot of places around the world that have different opinions about forgiveness. But in reality, it sort of started with Christianity, and it started with more from a biblical stance. But it also exists in Buddhism, in the practice of Buddhism. It also exists, with Islam, Hinduism, indigenous and ancient traditions. There was a natural form of forgiving others and letting something go, or accepting something with others. And, in Hinduism, forgiveness is like a virtue that gives you spiritual liberation and what we called karmic balance. And in Christianity, it kind of came from the Lord's Prayer. And also with Jesus, the speakings of Jesus a lot in terms of what he was sharing and spreading in his journey. Buddhism, it's about letting go of anger and resentment and finding inner peace. And then if you look at the indigenous organizations, it was more about forgiveness to restore harmony. Harmony among tribes, harmony among different people in different areas of the country. So, and then it's also been recorded, talked about, discussed, really explored in the Greek mythology, philosophy, modern psychology. So in our day and time, forgiveness kind of exists in modern psychology, and also I believe in more of the spiritual and religious sector. And everybody has a different view, but the point about forgiveness, and I don't know if any of you have been through any of the situations where you've had something happen with a person or a situation and you found that you couldn't go to forgiveness. Like, I can't forgive them. I'll never forgive them for what they did. How many of you feel like you've had some situation in your life that was around that you felt like you couldn't forgive someone, that you didn't want to forgive someone, but you knew in your heart, I need to do something about this? Now, one of the other reasons that I bring this up is that I've been spending a lot of time on social media, and not really because I want to, but because I feel it's important to get what I call the energy of groups, to get what I believe is going on in society, because I need to know that. If I'm going to bring programs forth that help people clear energies that can bring harmony and peace to them, I need to know what's out there that's causing all of this feeling and this stress and this panic that so many people are going through right now. And I follow a couple of people that I would probably give a name to, that they are the epitome of negativity, panic, and PTSD, because they will write these long, involved texts, things about how the world is screwing them up. How the decisions of anything in politics, anything in celebrity situations, anything in the news, they are definitely triggered continuously by this. And I follow that, some of these people, purposefully, because one, I feel for them, okay, because they are like a sponge. They are absorbing everything. But it's also a way to see how much a person can be affected and what that can do to them. So I'm looking at it at what I call at a 10, at the top of the level. But if each and every one of you were to sit back and say, well, I'll give you a number on a scale of 1 to 10 on my own life right now, I ask you, where do you think that is? Just think about that for a second. Based on where you are in your life right now, based on what's going on in your life right now, from a standpoint of stress and anxiety and not feeling in harmony, where do you think you are?
Which is the highest?
Yeah.
The highest would be 10, the lowest would be a 1. So the highest meaning that you're at the highest level of anxiety and stress. And a 1 would be, hey man, I'm chilling. I'm good. I'm so chill that I don't even know what's going on in the world.
That's what I want to be.
Yeah.
Okay, I know what's going on, so I'll give it a
So that's kind of where people want to be, right? Well, yes and no, because I do think that we always need a little bit of both sides of things, because that's how you learn. That's how you learn to navigate something that goes on, because sometimes you have to have the experiences in order to learn from that. But I want you to just think about, where are you right now in that? And then the next question, what is it that's causing that? Is it a person? Is it a situation? Is it just the world in general? Is it your job? Is it your family, your parents, your brothers, your sisters, your uncles, your aunts? Because family stress can be very hard on everyone. And so you have to ask yourself, what is my biggest stressor right now? And how can I overcome that? How can I begin to learn from that? Because I want you to take whatever you're feeling right now, this is an opportunity. Remember, one of my, I would say my mottos is that it's about, there are no failures, there are no problems, there's only opportunities. Because you can learn from problems, situations, failures, those kinds of things. In fact, you can almost erase the word failure from your vocabulary if you see all problems as an opportunity, because it no longer becomes a failure. It just becomes an opportunity to do something different, to think differently, to be differently, or to step into something new. And when I really started working on this and said, okay, I am going to adopt the language of that everything is an opportunity, because there's always a choice. There's a choice for everything that goes on in your life. It may not be the choice you want. It may not be a great choice, but it's a choice. And our life is built, right now, your life is built on the choices you make. Everything that's going on in your life is based on a choice. If you choose the wrong relationship, that was a choice. You chose it. If you choose the wrong job, that was your choice. If you choose to leave that job because it was the wrong job, that's your choice. And that can take you to a different place. So it's really good every now and then to ask yourself, what choices am I making in my life right now? I'll give you a story. I have a client that comes in fairly regularly here into the shop, and she is in a very difficult romantic relationship. And basically, the fella that she's, quote, in the relationship with, and I really do think it's more in her head that they truly have a relationship than what he believes, but he is not true to her. He has girls everywhere. He has a girlfriend here and a girlfriend there and a girlfriend, but in her viewpoint, she's his girlfriend. And I've actually just looked at her, right at her face, and said, he will never be true to you. He is not the right person. And not only that, but she was actually with him not too long ago, visiting him, because he doesn't live in the same area. She has to travel to a few hours. She was there in his apartment while he was on the phone to another girl that was breaking up with him. And she was coming by, she wanted to come get her stuff, and he's running around collecting stuff, taking it out the door, but telling this girl, oh, just stay right here, I had to take care of something. So the point is, it's a choice, and that's not a good choice for her. But yes, she has difficulty seeing it. So I get curious, why is it that sometimes we can't see that? We just can't even see it. And part of it is because we are closed. We are closed to being willing to open our mind to something different, and to maybe even practice that something different. Now, it probably goes deeper. It could go to things that happen in childhood, and that person could feel as though they're not loved, and they're truly seeking love, and they'll take whatever they can get at that point. That happens a lot. Or they don't want to be rejected, or they just have a viewpoint that, I know this is what's happening, and I'm just going to block out everything else. But again, it goes back to it's a choice. And so forgiving others is a choice. And stopping anytime you judge someone is a choice, becoming aware of it. Because once you become aware, oh wow, I'm judging that person. What you want to do is say, I want to forgive myself for doing that. Because you want to forgive yourself. I mean, if you didn't say anything to someone, then they don't know. Yeah, there's an energy, but if you stop it, you can recall that energy. And you can send that person and say, you know what? I just want to acknowledge the creativity of that individual in what they're doing today. Because why should it bother us? Why should it bother us? And if it makes us feel uncomfortable, it's triggering something. So if we go back and look at why forgiveness is important, I'm just going to walk you through a couple of things. First, it allows you to have emotional healing. And I have to say, I've gone through some very difficult situations in my life where I had to forgive some family members for some things that went on in my life that weren't my fault and not a good situation. But I realized over time that if I would just forgive them, I release myself from a lot of pain and thoughts and things that I felt. But I realized that once I forgave that person, it set me free. And it actually changed my relationship with those individuals. And it was really, they say, be the bigger person. Sometimes you be the one that steps back. And sometimes that works. Sometimes it doesn't. But at least you know you did what you had to do. And, you know, when you hold on to resentment, when you hold on to anger towards someone, it causes stress in you. And I've used the term, you know, holding on to lack of forgiveness or anger or resentment is like you taking poison and expecting the other person to die. And because what's happening is you're the one that's feeling the poison. It also allows you, once you forgive or step into forgiveness, to actually begin to grow spiritually. It actually helps you to start seeing things that you didn't see in the beginning, because it's like a mask you have on. And you're just saying, you know, how could they do this to me? Or how could that person not be honest with me or not tell me the truth or treat me this way or do these things? I want to encourage you, and I'm not saying that this works in every situation, but I want to encourage you to think maybe, especially if it's a family situation, that maybe that family member or members came into this world to be the way they were, which may not be good, but that to help you become the person you've become. And that it could actually make you stronger if you're able to look at it in that way. Doesn't mean that you have to accept behaviors that are, you know, abusive or mentally, physically abusive. Doesn't mean you have to accept that. But if you can step back and say, perhaps there's a reason why I'm going through this, and how can I learn from it? How can I separate myself from it? And how can I move on? But I can just let that be what it is. It's hard. It's very hard. And I know from my own personal life that when I got to a place, and it took me until I was in actually it was when I was 50. It took me until I was 50 to let go of some family things that had really haunted me my whole life. And when I let go of those things, I was able to go to discernment. I was able to literally let go of the emotional connection. And when that person did anything or said anything that might upset me, that was critical or hateful or what I call mean-spirited, I was able to just go, so what? So? Okay, sorry you feel that way. I don't feel that way. Yes?
Discernment mean again?
Pardon me?
What does discernment mean again?
Discernment means being able to look at a situation and not have any emotional attachment to it. So, like if somebody, well, we can use a great example on social media. I mean, again, I'm not going to get into politics, but let's just think politics. Somebody says something and somebody gets triggered. Whereas somebody can say something and you just go, okay, that's their opinion. I don't agree, but that's okay. You know, there's two sides to everything, and you move on. You don't get triggered by it. I mean, think about, and I know everybody here in this room has done it, You see a post and somebody makes a comment and then somebody throws a negative something in and you're like, oh, I need to respond to this. Oh, I need to say what I feel. You know, I see those all the time and I just go, whoop, I'm pulling back. You know, not going to get involved. Now, I might say, I don't agree and I respect you. You know, I respect your opinion. I may not agree with it, but I do respect it, and everyone has a right to their opinion. And that's okay, because you're neutralizing your part. The other, in fact, there's two words that you can use that can neutralize a lot of what I call people sort of dinging back at others. You can always use the phrase called, that's interesting. Because that's interesting doesn't take you anywhere. It's just like, that's interesting, because there's really no energy to that. No one can really, you know, what's the person going to go? Oh, what I wrote was not interesting. You can just say, it's interesting. And that's a way to neutralize a lot of situations, especially in the fact that even if you're in the middle of a conversation or something and someone's really trying to push an opinion, you can just go, well, that's interesting. You know, that's interesting. You can walk away if you want at that point.
I like that.
Yes, and it is, and actually that's a behavior that is recommended a lot in situations where you don't think you're going to ever resolve anything. And you know, I've done a lot of personal development programs, and I did the whole Tony Robbins mastery program. And the one thing that I took away that I thought was really important was you can change your behavior in the snap of the finger. You can stop in the middle of an argument and you can turn around and say, I'm not doing this anymore. You know, you can walk away from someone who may be treating you disrespectful and you can say, not going to do this anymore. Nope, not going to do it. You know, and that's one of the principles in people who deal with members or friends or family that are are alcoholics, is that at some point you have to say, I no longer accept this behavior. And because if you're an enabler, they're always going to do it. If you say, oh, I'm done, nope, you know, I said if you did this again, you know, you got to go find a place to sleep, and I'm sticking to it this time. Because what happens is, if you always do the same thing over and over, you're always doing this. But if one of you changes your behavior, what's the other one going to do? They can't do anything, because now you're acting differently, and now they have to act differently. I mean, if that was the case. And so you're no longer enabling that person. You're changing your behavior. So it requires them to respond differently. And if you do it enough, something changes. It will change. So that's another way of working through behaviors, especially, you know, and think about this. You're in the middle of an argument and you're really fired up about it, and then you just say, I'm going to walk away. Now, guess what? You got to go into forgiveness. You got to say, you know, I'm just going to let this go. I understand. I forgive myself for getting into that argument again, but I'm just going to acknowledge that person and recognize that there's something going on with them. That's why they're treating me this way. And so you can let that go. And when you go into forgiveness, and the more you do this, the easier it becomes. And guess what? Eventually your body will do it naturally. You will start to do it because you're creating a behavior that starts to serve you. And it's not as hard as you think. So another reason to learn how to be in what I call a state of forgiveness is it's going to bring you personal empowerment, because you will find that you don't attract more situations that you have to forgive, because you start to carry a different energy, and that you follow what I kind of call there are laws of spirituality. There's a law of forgiveness in spirituality. There's a law of abundance. So you have to think about, how can I carry this behavior into the spiritual lifestyle that I'm creating? So if you have, when I look at this, when I think about some of the things that I researched, it can really cause what I've actually felt, and I think maybe all of us have, is exhaustion. Carrying the energy of not forgiving someone or anger or judgment is you're pushing that down, you're carrying that energy. It will exhaust you. It will actually make you tired. I know a couple of people and they're working on themselves, but they carry a lot of anger. And they're ready at a moment's notice to that anger can flare up, but they're also tired all the time. They're like really tired. And they even make comments, I just can't seem to get good sleep. I just can't seem to rest. It's because they're carrying a lot of anger. That's a lot of energy that you've got to hold. And when you carry that, it affects you. The other thing is people who are in a position of not forgiving are usually always in a fear-based situation. They're always fearful of what's going to happen next. What's going to happen next to me? Because I'm not quite sure how this individual is going to react to me. It's kind of like what we call walking on eggshells, because we're always walking around somebody because we don't know how they're going to react. And at some point, we have to get to a point to where we don't let their reactions affect us. Or we basically say, I'm not going to accept this. If you act this way, I'm leaving. I'm going, yeah, think about it. I actually was in a position once in my, hey.
One more person that would like to join.
Oh, sure, come on in.
You got the best seat.
You are front and center now.
Yep.
All right, well, thank you for being here. Yeah. The other part is you want to think about your mental health. Is it worth it? Is it worth it being in this position? But the real part to this is how can you then transform what we've talked about? How can you put yourself in a very positive mode? How can you really begin to love life, to be joyful, to actually accept yourself and love yourself? Because forgiving yourself means loving yourself. It means I love me, and there's nothing egotistical about that. A lot of people think if I start telling people I love myself, then they're going to think I have a big ego. No, they're going to think that you probably are pretty grounded and that you are a person that not only do you love yourself, but that you will give love to others because you care about other people. So I want you to think right now, I want you to think about anything that you feel like that you could let go of, or that a situation that's occurring in your life right now. It could be a little something. It doesn't have to be anything really big. It could be, maybe you're not happy in your career, or there's someone where you work that is like a thorn in your side, and they've done some things, and you have to let that go. Maybe something in your family, or maybe something with a friend. Sometimes, we're in a time now where the energy is getting so intense that sometimes there are friends that we start to learn they're not really our friends. We thought they were our friends, but when you really needed someone to talk to or that was there for you, that all of a sudden they weren't available. And I'm hearing that a lot. I'm hearing that a lot from lots of clients and customers, that they're learning, like, I thought this person was my friend, and I realized that I only called her to do things, but she never called me, or he never called me. So you really have to take a look, kind of do an assessment. And you know what? If you really don't feel like you have the friends that are there for you, go start seeking new friends. We can seek new friends. There's a room full of people right here that are all thinking the same way. And you probably all have a lot of same experiences, and you can support and help each other. You are literally here. That's why we're here. That's why I'm doing this, is because I want to give you tools for transformation. And that's why I call it Soul Sunday. It's like hoping that something that you hear or feel, or you meet someone or whatever, that you can walk out this door today and know something different and learn something different or do something different or be different. Literally be different in your life, because when you take those steps, the universe delivers. And I'm going to say that so many times, you're going to get sick of hearing me say it. And the reason that I'm saying that so much is because I am learning. I'm actually a recipient of that myself. I myself have been in a mode of really adhering to a lot of these things that I'm sharing with you today. And I'm starting to notice how even my own life is changing. My business is changing. I'm changing. People around me are changing for the better. It's actually for the better. And I trust. I'm trusting so clearer than I've ever trusted, because I do believe that the universe will deliver. And it goes back to what I said, there are no problems, there's opportunities. And when I look at it as an opportunity, then that's when everything changes. That's when the energy changes of these things. And I think that it's nice to know that there are people in your situations that, here you go. You can take the whole box and just pass it around. There are situations that we think sometimes we can't overcome, and we can. We can. And believe me, I've been there many times, from the time I was a teenager until now. I mean, I remember one time when I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to tell my parents what I did? How am I going to do? They're going to kill me. You know, how am I going to tell them? I mean, I think I stressed for 3 days about something that I thought I did that was going to be a big problem. But the strange thing was that when I finally told them, they weren't upset. And I stressed for 3 days over this. Whereas if I just told them in the beginning, you know, because I wasn't supposed to be in somebody's car and I wasn't supposed to be going somewhere, you know, and then, but they were kind of like, okay, well, and the weird thing is that we knew you were going to do that anyway, because they told me not to do it. Not debating, not arguing, but just listening. And you may find that it changes dramatically. And I actually get to test this out a lot, you know, with different people, because I'm around so many different people all the time. And sometimes customers come into the shop and they're in an emotional state. And of course, I always listen to Spirit, and Spirit will usually say, listen, and sometimes Spirit will say, step in and talk, or step in and share information, step in and share advice. And that's when I do. And I know one day there was something that I felt like I needed to say to someone. And literally, this is one of those times where I did hear a voice. Spirit said, absolutely not. There's a reason you don't need to share this with this person right now. And I realized later, because the person came back in, was the perfect thing, because they came to the realization on their own. And they needed to come to that realization. And so I was thankful and grateful for how information comes to me, and I follow it. And many of you get that information. You may or may not follow it. But the more you follow and listen, or whether it's just strong thoughts, because for most people it's strong thoughts. It's not a booming voice, or it's a sign that you see, and you're like, well, I saw that 3 times. I think now I'm getting the message. I think now I know that I need to do some more thinking around this. So, what are some of the things that you could do and to really start to work on situations that you're involved in right now? And what I wanted, I've got a handout for you, because I like to give you handouts and take them home and look at them, and you might want to practice it, you might not. A lot of people say, oh, affirmations don't work and so forth. Well, affirmations really aren't the strongest way of manifesting, but affirmations are a great way to continue to begin to train your thought process, because it will train your thought process. And it's a known fact that if you repeat something every day for at least 30 days, your brain will be trained with what you're repeating. And so I'll hand this out to you when we finish. But what it's going to assist you in is letting go of judgment and resentment, learn forgiving others, self-forgiveness and healing, and inviting peace and spiritual freedom into your life. But before I do that, I'd just like to open this up to anything that is like on your mind, a burden, a situation, anything that myself and or others here could help you with, or to give you insight. Is there anyone that has, yes?
I have a question about, if you don't mind me asking, like, when you say, like, spirit, what does that mean? You're referring to your higher self, or something else?
So for me, spirit is usually a spirit or a guide or an angel. I do have, this was brought to me, it's called the Council of Messengers. And then it started as Council of Angels, and then it went to Council of Messengers. So it's like a council of spirits or guides and or even loved ones that speak to me. Now, I also invite them in to talk to me. And it's a energetic connection because I'm resonating at a certain vibration, and that vibration is allowing me to resonate with them. So I do believe that we all have guides and angels and possibly even loved ones or ancestors that are around us, because it's also been proven that we do have different dimensions, vibrational dimensions, and this room is probably full of spirits and angels. We just can't see them at the level that they're at right now. So that's what it is to me. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, so, like, you can tell the difference between your own intuition and then hearing
Yes.
something else.
Well, and I will say this, my intuition is to go within your own wisdom. And there is a difference between listening to your own, but really what you're listening to is your own inner wisdom that you were born with. So we have much more knowing in our spiritual self than what we realize, because we haven't been taught to access it. We really weren't taught. Yes, there are some people that are taught, but we weren't taught to really believe that we have an inner wisdom, an inner knowledge, and that we really have everything we need to know within us. And I'm a believer too that we are energetic beings, that we are energetic light beings, and that we carry energy and we carry knowledge, but we are human, and we're having a human experience on this earth, and that's why we have situations and problems and judgment and lack of forgiveness. All of those things are creating our experience, the experience that we're having while we're on this earth, and we can shift that. We can shift that if we choose to. Does that help? Okay, good. Yes?
I want to say this is such a confirmation for me. For the past year, I've been doing work on myself, loving myself, and, releasing a lot of junk that may not have been, that I created, but was created for me. And so in coming here, this Saturday was my day to connect to myself, and the 3 words that I got was intuition, acceptance, and faith. And this is what you have talked about today.
Mm-hmm.
I have to challenge myself to come here. One, I do want to be around like-minded people, but it's a travel, because I'm coming from Douglasville and traffic and all of that. So for me, it's a bit of a challenge. But I want to thank you for the subject, because when you first said it, I said, no, I've already forgiven. I've already done this. But you brought a different spin to it, especially now that I'm in a different mindset to receive the difference that you're bringing. And I just appreciate that.
Thank you. And I think that is, what you bring up is so important, because we tend to think we've addressed all the issues that we've had. And that, because what happens is, if we have, and I'm not saying you have to address every single one, we could kind of group them in a bundle if we wanted to, and try to eliminate them, and that can happen. But the reality is that we carry more judgment and lack of forgiveness than we realize. We carry so much more. And even if you're just thinking it, I mean, even when I read what I call the people I follow on social media that are definitely in high panic, I really work on myself not to judge that person. To say, okay, I understand that person's going through something, and how could I send energy to that person to support them? And I actually say that to myself when I'm doing this, because it is a continuous practice to do this, because something can throw us, helter-skelter. Somebody comes into our life and they're total chaos. And all of a sudden, all those behaviors and all those thoughts and all those things that we had, it's like, oh my gosh, like, you're the worst, And you have to realize that, okay, maybe that person is the type of person that creates chaos, and maybe they don't need to be in your environment, and you need to find a way to separate from that and not let it get to a level that starts to affect you. And that's also part of learning how to kind of feel energy of people. Sometimes you don't see it right away, because they may have a different side. We all have different sides. Don't think that, we're only one way. I have a different side too. I am astrologically, I'm a Taurus, but I have my levels. But when it gets to about here, I'm a different person, because I've had enough. And so that's a side to me that a lot of people don't like to see. But sometimes that has to come out, because it is it's appropriate at the time of how that should come out. So I pay attention to when is my behavior appropriate, certain ways that I may function. Because there may be times where I have to be very firm about setting a boundary or setting rules or following rules, and that person may not want to do it, but I have to be firm, and it might seem kind of cold and uncaring, but that's the rule. No more conversation around it. So, it's about understanding your own personality and understanding how you behave in different situations and around different people. And there are people that energetically, I literally, just say, okay, that's just not going to serve me today. I'm good, I can handle it, but I know that that's not someone I want to be involved with. Whether it's a friend or even be around them at that point, because I know that that's not going to help. And I think you've all probably dealt with things like that. And also, I say this a lot, I say it even to my staff here, is that pay attention to the little red flags. Because it is the little red flags that are giving you the first little notice of something that isn't quite right. The little red flags should lead you to observing more of that individual. Because you might start to see things and hear things that they say, and you go, I'm not quite sure that I'm in alignment with this person or this situation. It could be a job, it could be a relationship, it could be just meeting someone new. There's a lot of things that can happen. But when you close your eyes to those little red flags, then the big ones will start to come as well. And then sometimes those big ones aren't comfortable. And then you have to make a choice. Then you have to make a decision. So that's a lot of what happens when we put ourselves in this. But like I said, I just wanted to address judgment, and then how that connects to forgiveness. There's also a Hawaiian prayer called the Oho'oponopono. Oho'oponopono. Yeah, and it's
Never say the word though. But.
Yeah, it's I'm sorry, forgive me. I'm sorry, forgive me, thank you, and I love you. And it's the 4 statements, and there's a whole story around it where a doctor used it, and the story that was related is that he was a psychologist, psychiatrist, psychologist, and he never met with these individuals that were in a mental institution, and they were like criminals who had like very evil criminals. And he never met with them. He just read their files, and he would repeat that prayer over and over. And apparently it began to shift them to a certain place. And again, there's a whole story about it. And there's a lot more to it than just that, but that was the beginning of his treatment. And it's a great little prayer, you know. It's like, I'm sorry, forgive me, thank you, and I love you. Or you can say it in any kind of sequence you want, but for me it makes sense to say that. But you could just start out with, I love you, thank you, I'm sorry, forgive me. Doesn't matter what order. But that's one way. And another way is just to, you know, find something, an anchor or some way that you create awareness for yourself. Is like, oh boy, I'm judging again. I need to stop right now. Shift that. Or we say, cancel that, cancel that. Cancel that thought. Cancel that saying, just what I just said. Cancel that. Any questions? Thoughts?
I have a question, but
Yes.
I don't know if it's this conversation question.
No, that's fine.
So, I'm in that bubble where you talk about, but I'm in that bubble right now with my son, right? He is in rehab for drugs. He take a nosedive down, but I don't, like you said, the forgiveness part. I always want to strangle him.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't know how to let go of that. I know I don't know how to let go of that anger and try to understand, because I never walk that walk, right? And I don't understand the language, but he is saying things that I think shouldn't come out of his mouth, you know, and don't want to take that responsibility. So the forgiveness that you're talking about, I don't know how to put myself in that place right now to forgive or to get out of the anger before I could forgive. Or how do you, like, what's the first, what's the second, how do you?
So I can relate, because I have a son that was in rehab, so I can relate
Right.
to that. Okay, so the first thing that I learned was to let go, was to cut the apron strings. I had to cut the apron strings, because as long as you're thinking, you know, like you're doing, you're connected to him energetically.
Right.
He feels it.
Right.
He feels it. Is he in rehab right now?
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
A week now, yeah.
Okay, good. So, and you know, in rehab they tell you can't connect, right? Or
Well, he could use his phone and stuff.
yeah.
He's in one of those houses that, not in a hospital rehab, but in one of those houses kind of thing, with about 6 people. So
Yeah.
he's allowed to use his phone.
Yeah, we kind of call that sober living or
Something.
it's yeah, okay, so he's in a program, okay, so, and I have my opinions about when they're allowed to have their phones and those kind of things, because I don't think they should, because they're
Right.
still, you know, still in society, but the reality is, you have to disconnect, and I know that's very hard, but you have to disconnect from your son, and I can tell you, my son was a meth addict, and
Well,
he had
did everything.
yeah, he had disappeared. I didn't even know where he was. And I was at a point in my life where it was hopeless. I felt hopeless. I remember just sobbing one day to some friends saying, I just feel like I can't do anything. And they said, you have to let it go. And I actually got to the point, which a lot of people were alarmed at, that I said, I have to accept that he might go to prison, he might get shot and killed, he might die. I have to accept that. I have to accept that.
Those are tough words.
That's very hard. It's very, let me tell you, it wasn't easy. And I had a moment one day when I finally said, I had to go home. I had to come home, and I had to start my journey to heal. And so he did. He came home, got him in not in well, it was a rehab program, but it was a live work. He has to work, and he had to be there, but no contact with family or friends or anyone. All right, and he was there almost 6 months, okay? But the point is that I had to let that go. And once I did, I had this sense of power. I had this sense of connection. And I also forgave him for everything that he ever did, because he was not in his right mind. Drugs change you. He's no longer the person that you knew him to be. So it's very difficult, but again, there is a like a cord cutting ceremony you could do, and I'll be happy to share it with you. But I think that you have to know that he's now where, and let the people that are working with him work with him. You're not in control of him anymore. And how old is he?
25.
Okay, so he's an adult, and you have to accept that he's an adult. And again, life is a choice.
Right.
He's choosing. And yes, his body probably still wants everything, and some people make it and some don't. And I know that's maybe just like a, kind of a cold statement, but the point is, I have found, and this is for everybody, the more you let go of someone that's going through that and let them go through their journey, you can't control it. The more you trust and believe and know that God is going to protect them, if you can live with that trust, sometimes miracles happen. They happen all the time. And so you must trust that he's in good hands.
I do trust, but the forgiveness part, I don't know how to get to that part.
That'll
yet
come
because
slowly. That it will come slowly. It's an ongoing process.
Right.
And it is, but the more you practice, like what we talked about today, and you're going to get a sheet that's going to give you ideas on how to forgive every day, the more you do that, the more you can lift this energy. It is an energy that you're kind of encased in right now. And the more that you work on it, you will begin to release this. Trust me, I know that it can happen, but you have to do the work. When you do, just like he has to do the work to overcome what he's doing, you have to do the work too. And at some point, you'll begin to resolve that feeling of forgiveness, but you have to forgive yourself. Because to a certain extent, you're feeling guilty because he's...
She's like hitting me there, right? She's like, not messing up me.
He's doing... Yeah, you're believing that you did this. Okay, you didn't do this. Okay? So you have to forgive yourself. So that's... And when you do, everything's going to change. So, keep the faith.
Okay. I trust you.
Yes, Sharron.
And I found too, just in this later life with adult children, because we have to, as parents, as mothers, learn how to deal with adult children. But as they grow, they make their own choices. So for me, it's like, okay, I am not responsible for you as an adult. I'm there if you need me. And now my children know, because they're in their 40s. When, Mom, can I come talk to you? I said, what hat do you want me to put on? Do you want me to put on my mother hat? Do you want me to put on my spiritual hat, my counselor hat, my business hat?
Yes.
Tell me so that I can prepare myself, because each one is going to give you a different answer.
Yes.
And just because we have a title of mother, it doesn't mean that we carry that responsibility with us till our passing.
Right.
Because our children's hurts or our children's actions will hurt us. I didn't do anything.
Right.
But because I'm your mother, I love you, and the nurturing and all of that. So at some point in this whole process of forgiving yourself, loving yourself, it's a process, it's a work in progress, it takes time, and you got to do the work just about every day. Every day.
Yes.
But we can't hold on to the responsibility of our adult children's actions.
Yes. You can't.
No.
And you can't feel guilty if their actions aren't in sequence with what you think they should be.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
I also look at it as this is part of their journey, and if you go with the philosophy that we all come in to learn certain lessons, this is part of them. And yeah, it's like I've got a child that I wish she would open up and da-da-da-da-da, but it's like, this is your journey, and I wish you well, and I hope that you get there sooner than later. But, but it helps me a lot, and like you said, I know that I'm my kid's safe place to fall. If they really are ready and need to cry and whatever, I'm the first one that they're gonna think of,
Right,
if not each other. But-
right.
And it takes time to get there.
It takes
just-
practice, it
yeah.
takes time and it takes practice, but you can get there.
I think it's, for me now, it's like very new, and it's like you said, I'm afraid of the call or the word, like I'm afraid of the what if, and I shoulda do this, or I shoulda done this, or I think that's, when I lie in bed at night, that is what's going in my head, what should I do differently, or,
Take care of you and
That
live your
is-
life for yourself.
Yes, take care of you, forgive yourself, and stop beating yourself up thinking you should have done something differently. You did the best that you knew how. And so you can't blame yourself for that. But now you know better. Now you know better, and now you can learn more, and now you can learn better. You can actually learn new behaviors with your son when he comes out. And that's what I'd be working on right now. And if you're not, there is if you're not, are you in therapy at all? Are you working with anyone, a counselor or anyone? Okay, well, there is it's the,
Al-Anon.
Al-Anon is support for parents of children that have addictive issues. And it's a group, and it's good because you're all going through the same thing. So if you ever have a chance to attend that, you could attend those, and it's very helpful.
They're
But-
all over the place.
Yes,
and
but
they're
you
in
need
charge.
support. You
Yeah.
can't do this on your
This?
own.
I
Yes,
thought
you
was
need,
my
yes,
support.
yes,
Well,
you
I
need, no, you need
It's
support.
more than this.
Yeah.
This is
Well,
great,
yes.
but it's more individual
yeah.
for you.
Right, but if you decide to attend any of those meetings, then you're dealing directly on that issue with people who are dealing with it as well, and there is a leader of the group that can also give feedback and give suggestions. So that may be a good thing for you to do as well, because here's the thing, your son, it's not your son that has the drug problem, your whole family has the drug
Oh,
problem.
yeah, everybody,
Yes.
grandmother, everybody.
It affects everyone. So everyone has to somehow participate in the healing of this and feel comfortable and okay with moving through this.
Okay.
So, yeah. You're welcome. Any other thoughts or questions? Well, then I guess, oh, you have one? You have one? Yes, okay, don't be shy.
So I'm just grateful to be here with like-minded people. I grew up in a Christian household, but I can't say that it was all the way. My mom was really the first Christian in our family. My family's from Panama, so Catholic background, Christianity, it was there, present, but she was like the first. My grandmother wasn't like that, my grandmother before, so coming to America, she's the first, and Christianity was big, was new, exciting, so she, hammered it into us. So for me to be the first, to be like, yeah, nah. That's not what I want to do. And for me to be the first person to be doing my own research and finding things beyond Christianity and going into the spiritual realm, it's just it's humbling, and it's awesome to be around other people or like-minded people like myself, because honestly, you don't get that at home. A lot of people within my family or within my house are more closed-minded. They believe that the higher power has to be in a box, and I don't believe that he fits in any box.
Yeah.
So to not have that at home, to come and to be able to be here, it's awesome.
And let me just add something to what you said. Thank you for sharing that. That's great, because a lot of people are dealing exactly with what you're dealing with. But I also want to introduce that Christianity doesn't mean that you can't be spiritual.
No.
And spiritual doesn't mean that you can't be a Christian. So, to me, what a lot of people are concerned with is the rules of a religion. That it's religion that
Yes,
is maybe
yes.
stifling people, or they have rules. And I'm not saying whether those rules are good or bad, because there are people that migrate. People will migrate to what they need. And so the point is that we should all in our lives give our children their choices eventually. What's your choice on your spiritual direction if they have one? But unfortunately, a lot of parents don't do that. It's this way, or there's, you know.
And my mom
Yeah.
doesn't understand it, and I accept it. It took me years, because we go back and forth arguing.
Right.
But I learned that she needs that.
Yes.
I do not.
Yes, she migrated to what she needs,
Mhm.
and you're migrating to what you need. And the other reality is that it's okay, because you can still love her and still respect what she believes, because that, again, that is not having judgment toward her. It's like, you know, and here's the other part. Your mother loves you, and your mother wants the same for you that she either didn't have or has had, but she is just sort of guiding you. But again, it's like you said, once we become adult children, we have our own opinions, our own ideas, and our own thoughts. And our mothers and fathers don't control us anymore, and sometimes that's hard for parents. Yes?
I want to piggyback off that too. I was raised Catholic as well, but I went to therapy this week, and because we had a family therapy session Monday, and so my therapist saw my parents and saw how I interact with them, how they interact with me, and then I went to a session on Thursday, and she was like, "Well, Francesca, it's very apparent that both your parents have different gods. You know, like everyone has a different god, like the way that they were raised." How they were brought up, everyone in this world has a different God. You know, we're all individualistic, how we think, how we act. And I'm on the same journey as you, right? So I am, as well, trying to find my understanding, right? I've always been attracted to spirituality, everything. And, you know, there's some steps that I'm taking in order to further my growth. But it was like very enlightening to like not be angry and blame my parents for their path in life when she said, you know, they have two different gods, the way that they act, they think, very apparent, and it made me feel like, okay, wow, I have autonomy, and I can have autonomy over what I think and believe, and understand that we're all individualistic. We all, like you said, the wisdom, the intuition that we have within ourselves, you know, stuff like that. So it was very enlightening, you know, so I felt good. You know,
Good.
It's a good therapist.
It is a very good therapist, and so I'm so glad to hear that you have that support. And I'm glad to hear that your parents are, it is a family situation, because everyone can learn in those sessions. And that's what's important, is that everybody can learn when we move into a family situation. And ultimately, there should be family counseling with your son in the future, because like I said, it's not just his problem, it's a family problem. And so that's why family, you know, conversation, or even sitting in a group of people who are dealing with the same thing, you're going to get support, and you're getting the energy of support, which is also important.
And different insights too. on
Yes.
How to handle it.
Yes.
Al-Anon is a very good resource.
Yeah.
Very good resource, and I would get a therapist as well. You know, it would really, it's beneficial.
I
Yeah.
wish my family would be in like Al-Anon and in therapy. I've been in therapy since like 8 years now, every week. Because I've been in recovery on and off that whole time too, but I've just celebrated 4 years.
Congratulations. Yeah. That's great.
Thanks. I'll save it for the applause, but yes, it is a big deal. But I say it to say that I wish my family's pretty dysfunctional. There's been a lot of hurt before I chose to become, or I don't know, maybe you're born an addict. I don't know how that works. You got this, girl.
It's
You
okay.
got this. Here we go. You
Yeah.
got this. I don't know, I'm glad to be in a group full of people who are trying to better themselves.
Yeah.
You make all of us need that. It's like, I need over here. I keep coming up on these crossroads of like mental health stuff.
I just had to go inpatient again for like the 5th time for them to be like, we don't know, we're gonna treat it as this, but it's like, what is actually going on? And
Yeah,
I'm tired.
I know.
I am frustrated. I am doing all the things, like affirmations, to forgiving myself, to working on myself, and I get to a point where I'm just like choosing negative coping skills like binge eating and going backwards because I'm so exhausted of like, I've been working for 8 years and I'm at a point where it's like I'm so confused because I don't have guidance like so many other people with their families and the recovery, and it's just like all I have is my NA home group and my family, like in NA, and who I've built, and like it's hard because my family in itself is like, my mom and I are more like sisters. There's been a lot of trauma. There's been so much dysfunction in my immediate family. And it's like every time I go inpatient, something great happens in my family. Like my sister got engaged, my brother and his wife are having a baby, and I'm just like, yes, and I'm upset, but I'm also very grateful for you. Because I'm the oldest. And I spent most of my life running after them to make sure they were okay. Because my mom was not. I don't remember my mom.
Yeah.
I don't remember her being there. God, I feel like I'm just a sob story right now.
No, actually, you don't realize this right now, but right now you're releasing a lot.
Yeah.
Whether you realize it or not, you're letting go, and this is good. This is good. And the reality is that you are a star in your own right. You just don't see it yet. Because what you're going through and the fact that you're sitting right here today, you're telling me that you for 4 years you've been sober or you've been drug-free, and so you're doing it, okay? You're doing it. And you've got a whole room full of people right here that all support you and that all believe in you, in what you're doing. And you're on the right path. And by sharing what's going on, you're releasing, you're letting go. And you've been holding that in for a while. And it's okay to let go.
I'm just tired and I'm scared. It's like,
Yeah.
I've been
Yeah.
so anxious because like since I got out of inpatient, it's like everything kind of got turned upside down, like job-wise, like what am I going to do financially, like health-wise, like wheezing. Like I don't know I don't understand. Like nothing makes sense anymore.
Yeah.
And the weirdest part is that I keep hearing, like, this has been the thing that's bothered me for a while, is like I keep hearing, like, voices, and that's what they've been medicating me for, but it, like, doesn't stop.
And are the voices that are disturbing you? Do you feel disturbed by those
No.
voices? Do you feel directed by those voices?
No.
Okay.
And
Okay.
that's what, it's just strange. It's
Yeah.
hard to explain.
And maybe we can have a conversation at some point and talk about that, because maybe that's really something that's going on spiritually, but you just don't quite know how to handle that. It may or may not, yes.
I think we all here for a reason. I'm sorry I said things about my son, but you sound just like he sounds. And I'm glad I said what I said, but I am sorry.
Don't be sorry.
But
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
it's
Sorry.
basically the same kind of things he's talking about, you know.
Yeah.
In my head, I think differently, but hearing it out from someone different, it makes me feel like, okay, it's how the brain makes.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath, take another deep breath.
So I think with this, I think I'm going to close with a very brief meditation, if you're okay with that. And it's one that we've done before, and it's called I Am the Light. And I want you to just relax, and I want you to really take in and feel that you are the light. Every one of you in this room right now is a very special light, whether you realize it or not. And you're here for a reason. So if you're feeling something that feels disturbing or negative or whatever, I want you to just know that you are the light. You are your own energetic light being. Just give me a minute to get it set up. So, and then when the meditation's over, then we'll be done and you can go. Coaching program, and it's weekly coaching every Monday night at 7 p.m. And it's coaching and training, and you get 16 modules, and you get workbooks and a lot of materials. So if it's something that you're, and it's very affordable. I have a payment in full plan, and I have a monthly plan if you're interested. But if you'd like to know more about it, let me know, and I'll give you a call, and I can walk you through the whole thing. And then we can talk about it. Are you ready to sign up?
No, I told them, I said, sorry, it's only for females.
Oh. I do have one coming, though, that will be male and females. So I have another one that we're probably going to roll out. Yeah, we're going to roll out in May. That will be combined audience. It'll be very similar, just a few things will be different, because this one has been positioned more for like a women's circle in addition to all those things. But I realized that when I was putting